All right, everybody, let's continue on. In this one, I already circled it and realized I'd forgot to click the record, so I'm kind of redoing it. But here, it's what happens when you get old. Look at this one. So the question is, the student has most likely misinterpreted the professor's remark. In other words, what's the flaw in the student's reasoning? The student has made a mistake in their understanding of whatever it is the professor's saying. So let's look at what the professor says. If, and I circled that because we have if and then we have then. Right? So that means we can probably put this in a very strict logical form. If both parents have type O blood, so I'm going to put, let's say, if parents have type O, then what? Their children can only have type O blood as well. So we have, if you know that parents have type O, it must mean children have to have type O. Okay. Now, what is the student doing? The student says, wait, no, that's not true. So this is a flawed, student's claiming this argumentation is false. Well, why? Let's see. My father has type B and I have type O. So the student is saying, okay, well, because my father has type B and that leads me to having type O, that somehow that invalidates this argument. Well, hopefully we can kind of see that this is flawed right from the get-go, because the author or the professor is only making the claim about this category here, saying if we have this situation where both parents have type O, that must mean the child is going to have type O. Now, the student is saying, well, wait a minute, but there's another possibility of getting type O. I've got a father who has type B, and I've got type O, so you must be wrong. Well, no, because these are two different categories. The professor is not saying anything about people with type B. It's just the professor is restricting his or her remarks purely to just this scenario here. So the reason that the misunderstanding here is that it's like sort of equating these terms. It's like saying, well, you know, that if you have type B, then that must not mean that you can get to, you know, that's not anywhere near what the professor is saying. So let's just go ahead and go down the list here. Let's see, option A, only people with type O. Yeah, that's it right there. The misunderstanding is the professor is not saying that the only way that you can end up with type O is if both your parents have type O, right? So that would be the error right there. I feel like I could probably explain more on that one, but I think it's hopefully relatively straightforward. There's our problem. All right, let's move on. Let's look at question number 4, right over here. Let's see what's going on here. So again, it says, which one of the following most clearly identifies an error / flaw in the author's reasoning? Let's see what's the conclusion first. Okay, here's our keyword, since. So that's indicating we have a piece of evidence followed by some sort of conclusion that always comes after the comma. Oops, let me do that backwards again. That always comes after the comma. Well, let's see. What's our conclusion? It would be a perfect way to deal with a federal, well, what's the it though? It seems a perfect way to deal with the federal budget deficit. What's the it? Tax of 50 cents per gallon would raise. Oh, okay, so the tax, we're talking about tax, right? Tax of 50 cents. Tax of 50 cents means, you know, perfect way to deal with budget deficit. I don't know, perfect. How about this? Solves deficit. I misspelled deficit, I think. Did I? No, I didn't. How about that? Still got it. Okay, so we're talking about this tax. Well, why? Why would this? Why would we? How do we get to that conclusion of the tax? What evidence do we have? Let's see. Looking at this one, the first thing is a statement of gas tax of 1 cent per gallon raise $1 billion per year. So let's say tax of 1 cent yields $1 billion. That's a lot of money. Yowza. Okay, at current consumption rates. Okay, so here's where I have a sneaking suspicion. This is putting a limitation on the effectiveness of the gas tax, right? We're not just saying any gas tax of 1 cent would yield $1 billion. This is going to work at this whatever the current consumption rates are. I'm going to just throw that in there because I just have a feeling this is where the error is going to be. At current consumption. All right? All right, I have a feeling. So so then it said, and what's evidence number 2? Since a tax of 50 cents per gallon would therefore raise $50 billion a year. So they're saying, all right, well, and that means a tax of 50 would therefore raise 50 billion. Okie dokie. Well, actually, I think I kind of, and then therefore the tax would solve our deficit problem. This tax would have the some sort of additional advantage. I'm going to skip over all that because I think this is really the meat of what we have to deal with here. What's the error here? Well, I think the flag is going to be when we say at current consumption, right? So given what we're doing right now, if we tax the 1 cent, we're going to raise $1 billion. That doesn't necessarily mean that these things are equivalent, right? Like just 50 times this. And what's key there is that we don't really have the statement including at current consumption. This is my suspicion, is that this is the error here, is that we are kind of equating these things that, like, well, if I do this now, then if I do 50 times that, it's going to be 50 times as good. That may not necessarily fly. Okay, so let's see. Which of these? Author cites irrelevant data? No, that's not out. We don't have any real data in there. It's all kind of just opinion. The author relies on incorrect current consumption figures. Well, that's not necessarily true, right? We're not talking about that the consumption figures are wrong. That doesn't. The author makes incompatible assumptions. I'm feeling like that's the one, but let's go through the rest here. Mistakes in effect for a cause? No. That doesn't, no, I don't see that anywhere. The author appeals to conscience rather than reason. No, that's definitely out. So yeah, I think we have to go with C. The author makes incompatible assumptions. I guess the assumption is that whatever I do, if I'm taxing by 1 cent and it raises this, then if I do 50 times that much, I'm also going to get the same result. And the caveat there is the 1 cent thing and the tax was at current consumption. We didn't say anything about that here. So that would be, yes, that would have to be the answer. All right, let's pause this and we'll do a few more questions as we keep